Bowl first, Jarrod Kimber here for the Super Sunday. I suppose I don't really like Super Sundays or Super Saturdays. There's a lot of days out there, and there was a lot of cricket today. I'm going to try and get through it as best I can, which is not particularly easy because I have like a million notes. But I've tried to chip them down into a manageable feast of cricket knowledge for you, or not. Glenn Maxwell. Hey, what's with all these 50s? Where did they all come from? They seem fun. This was perhaps one of his, well, it's probably his best innings maybe in the IPL. I'm sure he's made more runs. Well, he has made more runs. I'm sure he's made them quicker. He has made them quicker. But as far as actually on this kind of pitch with early wickets falling, the way the attack was bowling, all those sorts of things, and the pitch. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible pitch. It really, and that innings and the way that he held the whole knock together, I just thought was absolutely, next level, incredible. I mean, if you think that the player who was at the other end, DDP, was going at less than a run a ball, and he was trying to whack them as well. He just couldn't whack them. Whereas Maxwell was able to whack them while staying in, which is if you're going to whack them, try and stay in while you whack them. Always, if at all possible, make as many runs as fast as you can. And here's the thing, as good as an innings as that was, it was not the best innings in this match. It wasn't the best innings in his innings, if you will. AB's knock was just, I mean, come on. And he'd done it before on the Chennai pitch, obviously earlier in the tournament, but that was just, I mean, I don't think there is anyone else who could score like that on this particular wicket. And there's nothing surprising about it, but it was still, incredible and ridiculous. And I think between the two of them, they probably pushed the entire, they probably went 35 over par. I'm not a big par guy because two different teams had two different pars, batting first, all those sorts of things. But essentially, they scored 35 runs more than you would have probably expected RCB to have scored. That's a lot more. If you go 5 over par, if you go 15 over par, that's a good game. If you go 25, you're doing really well. But to go 35, absolute ridiculous batting there. And KKR went up against that. And I think there are a lot of micro mistakes from KKR, which I think their fans and people who want to go back and have a look at this will go back and go, oh, they did this. So for instance, they pushed Dinesh Karthik up the order. I don't know why. There was maybe a matchup that I didn't notice, or there was a specific reason. I think he's a really good batter the longer you leave him into the innings, but maybe they saw something. It didn't work, but that's fine. They bowled Harbhajan at the death. Again, I probably wouldn't have gone there. I can understand why on this pitch it was in their minds. I don't think, I think in some ways, innings was already well beyond them by that point. They're using Shakib Al Hassan over Sunil Narine. We don't know what Sunil Narine's going to be like. I have heard that Sunil Narine is not fully fit, and if he was fit, he might have actually been playing already. I don't know if that is 100% true or not, but that is what I've heard from sort of in and around the camp so far. There's a lot of things like that, is basically what I'm saying. That's fine. Those sorts of things don't usually equate to 35 runs over par. That's when you run into two geniuses. And that's what they did. They ran into two geniuses at the top of their game. Maybe AB can go a fraction higher than that, although that is a terrifying thought. I'm not sure that Glenn Maxwell can bat much better than that, but if he can, that's also awesome. And Matthew Hayden went all in on my theory that you really need to score at 15 runs and over at Chennai at the start of your innings, which I'm glad that someone else is, as crazy as I am. And I think there are a bunch of little things like that, but when you break it down, there's no mistake that Kolkata made that is a 35 run differential. That is running into, as Virat Kohli put it, two genius innings. And that's what it was. And that doesn't happen that often in T20 cricket. So a lot of us who do analysis in cricket, we kind of think of T20 in this particular way, which is that batting is a strong link sport and bowling is a weak link sport. And to explain this a little bit better, basketball is a strong link sport. You're only as good as your best player on the court, essentially, and your best player can drag the other players a long way, as Nikola Jokic is currently trying to prove for Denver. And in football, Lionel Messi can be as good as he wants. If the goalkeeper keeps letting through goals at the other end, it doesn't really matter how good Lionel Messi is. So you're only as good as your weakest player in football. So if you think about that from a T20 point of view, in bowling you get 24 balls. Your best bowler might bowl as many balls as your worst bowler. Now you can hide them in different configurations and that boring middle overs, all that sort of stuff. But essentially, that's how it works down. Whereas in batting, your best player can face 50, 60, even 70 balls, and your worst player may not even get into bat. So think about this. Today, Maxwell and AB combined for 82 balls. That's 68% of the innings, and in those they scored 78% of the run. Another of the micro mistakes was Mark Nicholas kept mentioning the fact that Varun Chakravarti was taken out when Maxwell was still early at the crease, but they were holding him back for AB de Villiers. And that's what happens when there is dual geniuses. You have to make that decision. They thought that it was better on paper to keep Chakravarti for AB because Maxwell often gets himself out. That didn't happen today. The real mistake for KKR in this particular game was running into these two guys in this kind of form. Rahul faced 42.5% of the balls today, and he scored 31% of the runs. That's kind of the opposite of what we just talked about with AB de Villiers and Glenn Maxwell. The scoring rate in his match was 10.55 runs and over. He scored at 7.17 runs and over. That means that in order to be par, the batters at the other end had to score at 13 runs and over. Only one batter in this entire game scored at that faster rate, and that was Shah Rukh Khan for 5 balls. It's a very improbable scoring rate for one batter, let alone a bunch of them. Let me put that into perspective for you. Mayank Agarwal, he had a breathtaking knock, and he went at it, didn't he? He scored at 11 runs and over. Now, Rahul's innings wasn't the slowest innings. He was about the same as Gale, Pooran, Pant, Smith, all went slower. None of them faced 20 balls. They were all trying to get go. And there was problems with all their innings. It just didn't go on as long. And the thing with Rahul's innings is you can forgive a batter for starting a little bit slower, although I wish they all would start quicker. But you can forgive a batter for starting a little bit slower. Once you've faced 20, 30, 40 balls, there has to be a ramp up, or a catch up, if you will. It didn't come. Now, Rahul never used to bat like this. This is a new thing. He believes this. He's defended it over and over again. And there are certain situations where actually his thinking is pretty sound. For instance, if Jhye Richardson is batting at number 7, you probably need your top order to bat a little bit slower because you are, protecting your very, very weak lower middle order. The other is if you have a great bowling attack, and I do kind of mean great bowling attack, but even a really, really good bowling attack. If you have those kind of bowling attacks, you can definitely just slow yourself down. You give yourself what the Adelaide Strikers, the Sunrisers did for a little while, Chennai, those sorts of teams. You give yourself almost like a consistent 160 to 185. You're never going to fail. You're never going to get bowled out for 130, right? Chasing 220 or anything like that. You're going to have consistent runs on the board, and then you're going to back your bowlers to be better than the opposition's bowlers consistently. That's a fair way of doing it. That is not the Kings bowling lineup. This is a flawed bowling lineup at best. He has 2 green overseas Australian pacers who aren't really used to these conditions, who are trying to learn the IPL very, very early on with varying success. He's got Mohammad Shami, who has never been a consistent IPL bowler. He doesn't take wickets early on. You've then got a kid, some all-rounders and other talent out there. It is certainly not a great bowling lineup. I struggle to see how this is at the moment a plus bowling lineup. And when it absolutely comes down to it, I just don't think that... I think you have to get every single run that you can out there. And Rahul's current method is not doing that. But I'm not just mentioning the Rahul innings because they lost the game. If you go on Twitter, you can see heaps of people complaining about it while they were still making lots of runs. It's also because of the way that him and Shikhar Dhawan have basically swapped roles. Real Freaky Friday type situation here. Shikhar Dhawan, for years, looked like a T20 player. I mean, if you remember back to that innings he played against Australia in a test match, he just always felt like he could just cut loose at any time. He was incredibly dour in T20 cricket. Some of his strike rates, I think there was one year he was at about 118 or something. He might have even been lower another year. He just really struggled to get the ball away. The last couple of years, he's gone completely coconut bananas. He has completely changed how he attacks T20 cricket. From a tactical point of view, he's taking balls from outside of stump and trying to hit them to leg side. From an intent point of view, he's just trying to hit boundaries more. You can see now he's thinking boundaries and he's going with that. And because of this, him and Rahul have swapped roles. And it's a really, really interesting thing, because if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, who would you invest in over the next 3 years? I would have invested all of my money in Rahul. And if you'd offered me Shikhar Dhawan as an option, I would have smacked you in the face quite hard. right? And things have changed so much now that even though, obviously from an age point of view, KL Rahul still has a lot, and he still makes a lot of runs. Right at the moment, Shikhar Dhawan just gives you a lot more value. If you look at the way he played this innings, he wasn't particularly fast at the start of his innings. I don't think he's ever going to be a consistently fast starter like Luke Ronchi, someone like that. But he is going to catch up, and he plays a very tactical game now, especially with the way he's looking for his boundaries, which means that he gets himself set, and then when needed, he goes to that next level. KL Rahul still has that other level. I mean, he played a very fast innings against England. We still know he has that within him. He's purposely not playing that at the moment. It's a fascinating thing, because on one hand, you have a guy making absolutely tons of runs and allowing everyone to go really hard around him. And the other guy you have, he's not going to make as many runs. He's going to make a lot more tactical errors because he's going to go for these boundaries, but he's probably not going to get caught behind the strike rate very much. It's really fascinating. The fact that one won the game today and the other one lost it, it's too simple to look at that because there was a lot of good things that happened with Delhi. But let me put this together. Delhi bowled incredibly poorly at the beginning of today. Delhi fielded incredibly poorly. I mean, at one stage, they had 2 misfields off 1 ball, and I'm not sure that was the worst fielding they showed in this game. And Delhi still won with 10 balls in hand. That shows that something with the Kings is not quite right. Just a bit of a lightning round, having a look at going forward. It'd be very interesting to see if KL Rahul, the way he's currently batting, if he continues to open. If you're going to have Chris Gayle starting slow in the middle of overs, surely you want him to be, playing at that highest strike rate as long as possible. You want him to be early up. Whereas the way that KL Rahul is currently playing, he's batting more like a number 4 anyway. I don't know if they're going to make that change. I assume they're not going to make that change, but it might be something worth keeping your eye on. Avesh Khan, I thought bowled really quite interestingly today. They used him very, very late in the innings, which means he's a big chance of taking a lot of wickets, but I thought he did really well. Now, it might have just been that he bowled a little bit to Gayle and KL Rahul when they were both going quite slow, but I thought he was fascinating today. Riley Meredith, I mean, I had my questions on him coming in. I worry that whether he's going to work this out or not, he's not going to get the chance because he hasn't played well at this particular location, and this is the one that they probably would have thought would have suited him more. Be very interesting to see how many more games he gets. Kyle Jameson, on the other hand, one of the other expensive sort of punts from a team. You're getting hitting out of him, and you're getting wickets out of him. Economy rate, I never thought he was going to have a really low economy rate in this league. It would be interesting to see if he manages that. But they're getting wickets and they're getting the odd boundary. And I thought him attacking Harbhajan was brilliant today. He got completely beaten by that first ball, and I thought, I wonder if this is where we see his limitations. Instead, the next couple of shots were absolutely brilliant. Nitesh Rana, I thought after the innings he played, I think it was his last innings, I thought he played the situation perfectly tonight. I mean, he only made 18 runs, but I think that Kolkata's only chance was for both of their openers to go hard. I mean, Matthew Hayden obviously thinks they should have gone to 15 runs and over. I would have loved to have seen that. I'm not sure it's possible, but it would have been awesome. But Nitesh Rana certainly changed his game. I think that's a really positive thing, really positive sign. I think he's a wonderful player, actually. Andre Russell scored over 25 runs. It's been quite some time since he did that. I'm really interested if they keep persisting with him at the death. If they persist with him at the death, he's a really big chance of, continuing to score, let's say, between 20 and 40 runs and pick up a couple of wickets. But it didn't look good today, did it? I know he took the 5-wicket haul early on. I've never thought of him as a death bowler. I like him as an attacking bowler in the middle, where you say to him, look, you're going to go for a few extra runs, but I think you might get us a wicket here. It's kind of playing against his strengths to be a death bowler, but it does seem like they need someone to bowl at the death, and they're backing him. Washington Sundar bowled out his overs. It happened, which is a magical thing. I think he's a fantastic bowler. I thought he bowled really well today. Didn't get him with the bat, but I thought he bowled quite well. Harshal Patel at the death again. He's not going to want to leave this ground. In fact, if I was him, if I was his agent, I'd already be calling Chennai and going, what do you think of this Harshal Patel guy? And realistically, if I was Chennai, I'd be thinking the same thing. I'd be thinking, well, wait a minute. Is there something within his game that is just really handy to us? Because, he's got all-round skills as well. He's a good sort of athlete. There's a lot to like about him if you can, he's not a young player either. He knows his game. In a few hours, we'll be talking about a lot of these players that we've already been talking about right there. And we'll be doing so on a live So check your time zones and have a look at the thing. I've already put it up on Twitter, but if you want to get involved, if you want to ask me some questions, if you want to ask me some questions live, feel free to do that. Either way, I'll be here later, and then I'll be here again tomorrow, and then I'll probably be here the day after as well. I'll be here a lot.